Hello, Davey.
Hello.
Hey,
That is probably the most metal mic stand that I've ever seen. It's the mic of Sarlacc.
thank you, man.
Yeah. How you
Yeah,
doing?
Sauron for the win.
That's what it is. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. How you doing? You okay?
Oh, really nice day, actually. So yeah,
Good.
I'm doing really well, and you
I'm
on your
good, man.
side?
Everything is busy as always, and I'm just going from project to project. I'm enjoying it.
So there's more to come,
Oh
obviously.
yeah. Endless.
Hey, man, where's the octopus?
The octopus is in the other room. If you would like, I'll get it.
Yeah, let's go because I have a friend for him
Just 2
right
minutes.
here.
Here you go.
Oh, there's a dog too.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's a dog, there's an octopus. It's like the whole thing is
Yeah, and I
all
have
right, we're
that
good.
shark
Oh,
to
that's
match.
perfect. We're good,
Yeah,
man. It's gonna be a good interview.
I'm sure. I know that because I've been seeing you with that octopus, like in the Genesis video,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
also in the interview with Elizabeth Zara from the Charismatic Voice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but
Absolutely. Now we've got it here as well, so we're good.
yeah, totally. Yeah, so there's a brand new album coming out. It's called PowerNerd.
Yeah,
Uh, it will be released on October 25th on your Heavy Davy own label.
yeah.
Um, and what was the process to gather like this new creation? Because you always come out with new concepts and it's never ending and it's always quite original, I'd say.
I think the process is that I don't think about it. I basically I write all the time. Not consistently, like I don't sit and write all day, but my computer always is on. And so I'm always picking away at projects and ideas. And then once I feel like I've taken an idea to a point that I could expand on it later, I put these ideas into like folders on my computer so I can say, okay, well, once this folder gets 10 good songs, then that's a completed idea. Once this one has 10 songs, that's a completed idea. And then I start to refine it based on what it makes me feel. And that usually starts with things like artwork. Like I'll think, okay, so what is an image I can use for this folder that summarizes what this music makes me feel? Maybe it's a color, maybe it's a tree, who knows, right? And then the process is just I keep just picking away at things until I realize that one is ripe. And then I can harvest it in a sense. And and as a result of that process, I never know what's going to happen. Like I never know what the next project's going to be, right?
And on that one, you decided to not overthink and
Yeah.
just go with the flow for 11 days you were writing songs
Yeah.
and you stopped and you refined the lyrics, obviously, but
Yeah.
it was quite a quick process for a very
It was.
diverse album.
It was. However, I would also point out that that pile of ideas existed prior. So it wasn't completely written in that 11 days, but a lot of it was. So just to be
Fair
transparent.
enough. Fair
And
enough.
I think the reason why I wanted to do something that was a bit more straightforward is because the other projects that are involved with this four record thing that I'm doing um, are all so complicated. It's also over the top that it's almost like I wanted to make a record that was not a throwback, but I wanted to say thanks to the audience in a sense as well, and say, well, here's something a little heavier, here's something a little straightforward, here's something that's just a way to introduce this four record project. What I didn't expect though was that while I was writing and working on PowerNerd, we went through some things as a family that were very upsetting. So PowerNerd ended up lyrically being a very sort of melancholy in ways that I didn't anticipate.
Okay. And yeah, this is a really straightforward album, more in the addicted way, I will say. That's quite
Yeah,
an easygoing, straightforward album, but really it's a masterpiece in the eyes of a lot of people, and me included.
thank you.
I love that
I think that
album.
this album is a similar like in terms of structurally, in terms of the songs. But in terms of what it's trying to put across, it's definitely it's 17 years later, 15 years later, and very much coming from a different place. The concept of power nerd, I guess, um, it's almost like the record is about dealing with death. I think more than anything else, and
Yeah.
the process of acceptance, and then consequently coming through that and being in a better place. Um, so conceptually, it's very different from Epiclet or from Addicted, but they definitely share structural similarities.
Yeah, but still there's a lot of surprises along the way. And
Mm,
yeah,
yeah,
I was quite
always.
surprised by the song Ruby of Quaker that starts
Yeah,
like a Johnny Cash song, then it
yeah, man.
evolves into an Elvis almost song, and then you got that blast beat right in
Yeah.
front your way. I was like,
Well,
what the?
the idea with Ruby Quaker was so the song prior to it is called Goodbye, and that song is meant to represent accepting the loss of a loved one, right? So it's emotionally very heavy, I find. And originally, I was going to end the record with Goodbye.
Oh
But
yeah.
what it does is when people are finished listening to it, that's what they're left with. They're left with this sense of like, oh God, right? So Ruby Quaker was added to represent the fact that once you've gone through grief, on the other
There's
side of
hope.
it is hope. That's it, and coffee. You know what I mean? So that's the reason why that song exists. It's not necessarily meant to be silly as much as just like, hey, it's the next day. Like we've gotten through this storm. So now we're here. And where are we? Well, it's the morning. What are we gonna do? I don't know. Let's have some coffee. Like that's essentially what it was trying to represent.
I think it's a perfect closer to this album, and I really love that song. And I think there's a lot of uplifting material on this record because it will sound like with the first official video of the title track, Power Nerd, it feels like it will be a whole city record, but at the same time, there's so much uplifting things in that record in at least half of the song. I think Gratitude is one of them, Hubelia, and
Yeah.
the song that starts with acoustic younger
Younger
lover.
lover. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, it's I think the best thing for me to focus on as a lyricist or as a songwriter is it's okay to accept your sadness. It's okay to accept your anger or your pain or your frustration. But if you dwell in it and don't find a pathway through it, it can become like an addiction or a lifestyle. It's easy to view all these things as like, well, I'm a victim of circumstance, and I think that's for me not the vantage point that I think is most interesting to write music from is that of victimhood. I think it's much more alluring for me to face the difficult emotions, but with a sense of not even optimism, but just like the process of grief or the process of life, any of these things, just by definition alone means that there's, a beginning and an end. And
yeah.
so looking forward to things that are better is a very important part of my lyric writing process.
Totally, and I agree with everything you said, and also think that you have to be accountable in life. And yes, you got to live those emotions. It's not
Yeah.
hiding behind them.
No,
It's or
no.
like putting them at your back, and you will
Yeah,
just carry them as a burden with you.
that's it. So basically, during the process of making PowerNerd, we went through some experiences that were just really, really, really difficult. And the act of creating a record and mixing and producing and finding files and writing lyrics and dealing with all these things while you've got that level of grief in your life um, was I've never experienced that before. It was so difficult and difficult in a way that for the first time ever in my professional career, I thought I wasn't going to be able to finish it. You know, I was like, I can't, I just can't, it's too much. Like the lyrics, the work, the obligations for the family, like all these things, um, were, it was too much for the first time. But fortunately, I've got, musicians or people around me that are very supportive and they help me as well, like just to be with me during that time when we needed to finish it or whatever. And so we finished it. And I think that the name Power Nerd um, can have no better uh, example of a definition than the process that this record had to finish it. To get through it, you had to power through it, and you had to power through these emotions that maybe some people would think of as being, like some of the tough guy sort of shit is just like you don't acknowledge sadness, you don't acknowledge weakness, you don't acknowledge any of these
Yeah.
things. And maybe to do so, it's like a nerdy thing. But I'm just like, well, I'll tell you what, man. Like you had said, to not acknowledge these emotions means that you're gonna carry them. And I want to, I want to move past it. And it was a huge lesson. Like all of it was a huge lesson. And that energy is what's in the record.
I can feel it totally
Mm.
after listening to your album like 5 times. There's a lot of different emotion that you will recognize in that and feel. And you're right on what you say that a lot of people are not acknowledging emotions. And it was like a part of the whole culture of the BB boomers, I think, and the great generation.
I agree.
Uh, it was like as a man, I can't be like sad or show sadness or weakness. It's not part of me. I'm just a tough guy who can handle everything.
Yeah.
And that's not a good way to do it.
Well, it's specifically how that affects, the people around you. Like I found for myself, because, my parents were boomers, right?
Oh,
So,
mine too.
so when we were younger, like really to be angry or to be really sad, or it's almost like don't do that. And if you do, like just keep it quiet, like don't,
Yeah.
it's embarrassing to
In your
everybody.
room alone.
Go to your room and be mad or be sad. And or if you're mad, we're going to be madder, because we don't want that emotion in the house. And I think what that does is it teaches, it's like generational trauma too. It's like, then you end up teaching your kids, and then they end up teaching their kids that these are acceptable ways to deal with emotion. And I think that during the time of war, famine, whatever, those are very practical things. I know for myself that when we first had kids, I became emotionally very distant because it allowed me to do the job without getting affected by a lot of the intensity of it all. But I think what ends up happening for some of us, that at least happened for me, is maybe you hit a situation that's it's too much for you. Like up to that point, you can just be like, oh, here's that emotion, I'm going to shut it off. Here's that emotion, I'm going to shut it off, even subconsciously. But then all of a sudden, you hit something like somebody dies or somebody leaves or whatever happens, some sort of loss, and you have to just give up. You're just like, okay, this is too much. I'm really devastated by this. I'm really sad, or I'm really angry, or whatever the emotion is. And this was the first time in my life during the writing and recording of PowerNerd and the mix that I had a moment like that where the emotions were more than I had the ability to suppress. And then once that starts happening, I think all that stuff from the past also comes out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. It's part of
And
you.
then, holy shit. But once that dam breaks, it's like there's a certain part of me that during the writing of this, I'm thinking, God, is this what it's going to be like for the rest of my life? Like, I'm going to watch a TV commercial. It's going to make me cry. This is insane. Like, it's like you're so emotionally raw. And again, my work functions in the way that it does because I draw from my current circumstances um, as inspiration for what the album I'm working on is about. And so it's almost like you're making novels in a sense rather than making records. It's like you go through an experience and you're like, okay, this reacted like this, or this experience made me feel this way, or whatever. And then the music becomes like the exhaust of that process. And so with this one, it just so happened that this uh, traumatic experiences happened at the same time as the writing. So that's what it became about, right? On some level. And it was very weird, man. Been, I've never been in a scenario where my emotions were in control of me in a way, like I couldn't stop the crying. I couldn't stop the anger. Like all these things that were just they decided to sort of like appear. And then once they did, I was like, oh shit, I guess we have to go through this. I
Yeah.
guess we have to go through this because it's not, no matter what I was saying to myself, no amount of thinking positive or your thoughts affect your action or any of the Hallmark card bullshit that we get sold is like, it worked. So I was like, I guess this is part of my lesson right now is to sit with this and deal with it. And so we did. And Power Nerd happened at the same time, which is unexpected.
It brought you, I think, some wisdom, and
I agree.
you evolve as a
I
man, as
agree.
a human being,
I agree.
totally.
I agree. And that's where the value of this record is for me personally, is that um, although not perfect, it was completed during a period where it seems like that was not going to happen. And although not a perfect vocal performance, lyrically and the intent, it's honest and it sounds like how I felt. So
Totally.
that's the criteria.
Yeah, there's so much feelings into that album, and yes, and quite often artists will do their best work while they are like living like things that are like grief or sadness or
Mm,
like a really difficult period of time,
mm,
addiction even,
yeah, yeah.
and so when everything is all good, you're happy, the best time of your life, it's not the best record that will come out of those periods.
No. Well, I
Sadly.
mean, I guess it depends on the type of music, though. You know what I mean? Like I would rather, not that I would listen to either, but Jimmy Buffett's demographic probably would prefer music about margaritas than they would about his dead cat, you know?
Probably.
So I think the demographic definitely is part of whether or not that's acceptable and what it is that your idea is. And I would say that, no records that we do are perfect and none of them are the best one or the worst one. But the reason why Power Nerd works for me is because it was an accurate representation of a time, more so than the mix, more so than the songs, more so than any of it. It's that when I listened back to it, I was like, yep, that's what it was like. That's what it was like.
So it's really honest, like you said. And when
Yeah.
you will go back to that record in 10, 20 years, you will like live again those feelings, not at the same proportion, but
No.
you don't think
I,
so?
I well, I mean, how I tend to function with art is I put everything into it, like everything. Like I couldn't, imperfect as it may be, I couldn't have done more at the time than I did on the record. I worked as hard as I could possibly work to get it. I couldn't have done more. And that's the case with 99.9% of the records. Therefore, when I'm done, I let it go and I forget about it, like completely. And to the point where people bring up song titles and lyrics, and I'm like, I don't remember what album that's from. I don't remember what I don't remember what song that's from. And as soon as I release it, so PowerNerd is now we're doing interviews for it and videos, and we're in the promo cycle of it. But my musical mind is now with the Moth, which is the next part of the four record thing, and that's how it's always been. And so in 10 years, if I was to listen back to PowerNerd, uh, probably in the same, I would probably feel the same way as I did when I listened to Alien about 3 months ago uh,
Oh
by Strapping
yeah.
Young Lad. Because when
Yeah,
I put it
totally.
on, when I listened to it, I was like, yeah, I did that right. Like, it's not perfect, but the ways in which I felt at that time um, came through the music. And when I listen to it, what I hear is less the emotional component, but more the fact that it's like uh, uh, accurate. You know, I didn't feel like when I listened to Alien, I didn't think like, oh, that doesn't sound crazy enough. I'm like, no, that sounds fucking crazy, and that's
Yes.
where that's where I was, right? So so that's right. Does that make sense? It's like when I listen back to it, if it feels like how I remember feeling at the time, then it's right, and I don't necessarily participate in the emotions directly after it's released.
That's a good thing. You can move on pretty quickly
Yeah,
after
yeah, and that's
difficult times. And
yeah, and
since you brought the subject,
yeah,
you know
yeah,
where I'm
go.
going.
Yeah, no,
Any
no, go. It,
any
it'll be
hope
the
of
it'll be the third time I've answered it this morning, so go for it.
any hopes of something new from Strapping On Lad, concerts, new material, anything, just performing the whole songs and
When I go out and play with the band that I use now, I play a couple of strapping songs for sure. The answer is no, and it's not because I dislike the music. It's not because I dislike the people. It's not because I dislike what we achieved. It's because the nature of the work that I do, like I've been describing throughout this interview, is you can only draw from what you're experiencing in order to feel like the only criteria that's important to me in order to release a record, which is authenticity, is covered, is that I'm authentic to where I'm at right now. And
hmm,
where I'm at 52 years old versus where I was at when I was 27 years old is a world apart. And therefore, if the people who like what I did when I was 27 truly like it for what I think they like it for, they like it for the honesty. And that honesty is now what I do with what I'm working on at this point. And if people prefer what I did then to what I do now, then they should not listen to what I do now.
yeah,
That's what
that's
I
a good
feel.
answer.
It's true. But if they
Yeah.
like that, it's not, I don't feel resentment. I don't feel anger. I'm just like, I'm thrilled that someone liked it. But that's not where I am. So to ask me to do it when what you like about it is the honesty, and it would be dishonest for me to do it now, um, those two things are in opposition to each other. That's how I feel.
And I think it's just great on you because you don't want to cash on nostalgia.
No.
Uh, and if you're not at that place anymore, yeah, there's no more to say.
Well, that's it. But I mean,
I
because
totally get it.
yeah, and I get asked about it so often
Yeah,
that
I'm sure.
uh, there's more that needs to be said, I think, because otherwise I wouldn't be asked, you know. I think the end result of it for me is a difficult one for fans because when I say I don't want to do it, that's my answer. And and sometimes people are looking for further than that, like, well, why don't you want to do it? And I don't feel like I have any further answer other than that.
And you don't owe any people shit. So
No, I
they
don't.
just have to stick with those two records and they
Mhm.
are good.
Yeah, well, there's more than two. We did five with Strapping.
Yeah, I was speaking more the last two because you were talking about Alien, but yeah,
Mm,
total five records.
sure. Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
um and yeah, I like this collaboration with Gene Oglen and all
Yeah,
the other
Gene's
members.
genius. Yeah. Yeah, no,
It
same, dude. I thought it was
was
great.
genius.
100%. It was great. And I'm just not there anymore. So it's like, I don't want to do it.
That's it. And you have so many more albums anyway that are in the pipeline.
Well,
So
also, let's look at it this way. I'm at the age now where I can ask myself, what do I want with my life? Right? Um, and I could have before, but now I can really say, okay, in my 50s, what do I want to do with the rest of my life? You know, how many more years have I got? Maybe 25, 30 if I'm lucky. And um, with that, how do I want to spend that? Do I want to be making angry music in front of a whole bunch of people? And the answer to that is no, I don't. I'd rather work in a garden, you know?
I
And it's
like
like,
the example.
but it's true. Like I was talking to somebody the other day, and they were like, "Man, I miss touring so much." I saw an interview with a guy yesterday too. He's like, "I miss the smell of the venue. I miss the bus. I miss the coffee. I miss the late night chats." And I'm thinking, I hate all of that right
Of
now.
that.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't want fucking any of that. And but at the same time, I like playing for people because if they like the music, it's like a great thing, right? But what I often find in discussions with people about what I should do or what they should do or what any adult should do, it all comes back to people being confused about why somebody else doesn't want something that they like. And to me, that seems just so unbelievably like childish. It's like, I don't understand why you don't like the things that I like. And I'll say, well, okay, I don't like it
Oh,
because of this. I don't like it because of this and this. And they're like, yeah, but you're wrong because it's great. And I'm like, no, you think it's great. There's a difference, right?
a
But I
big
think
one.
that, well, the people in my life whom I'm close to and I care about overwhelmingly, we get past those points where it's like that's what you like and that's what I like and they're not the same and that's okay. But there's a lot of times where someone will say, I don't understand why you don't like this. And then when you explain it to them, they're still looking at you like with marbles for eyes, and they're just like, no, but I love that. And you're like, no, you love that. That's cool that you love that. But like touring for me, the thing I like about touring is being able to participate with the audience who have been so supportive. I like eating. Um,
Me too.
but the rest of it, man, like the romance of late night, like I don't fuck women when I'm out on tour, you know what I mean? It's like I don't do drugs when I'm out on tour. I don't drink. I mean, it's like it's I can't sleep. I'm constantly just like, holy shit, man, like this is a lot. And then a
It,
lot of the times it's like once I get to you get to Japan, for example, and you're like, oh my God, it's Tokyo. This is beautiful. But last time I went, it was like a 30-hour plane flight. And by the time I
uh,
got there, I was like so wrecked.
exhausted.
Oh my God. And then it's like, so I think again, the thing that is important for me to point out is people like different things. People appreciate different things. Audience likes different work that I do, and that's awesome. But I also am old enough and experienced enough to know what I like and know what I don't like. And no amount of people trying to convince me that my likes are correct or not is going to work.
I hope so.
Yeah, me
You're
too.
entitled to your fucking opinions and what you like
100%.
or not. Yeah.
100%. Could you imagine someone saying, I don't like Brussels sprouts. And someone's like, well, let me tell you why
That's the
you
best
should.
thing in the world.
It's the best thing in the world.
It's disgusting.
It's like
People
I just
that
don't like
are
it. It's like yeah,
although
but when you really think about it, and I'm like I have, and I've tried them a lot. You know, the best example of that for me is people always in my life. It drives me crazy. Everybody always thinks that I should be swimming. Like whenever there's
I
a fucking
don't
pool,
like that.
I hate it. I hate swimming, and I'm old.
Me
I've been in
too.
pools. I took swimming lessons. I've swam in the ocean, lake. I don't like swimming, and but every time I'm with people who love swimming, they're just convinced that I just haven't done it properly yet. You know, they're like, no, you're gonna love this pool, and I was like, dude, I'm 52, man. I've swam before. I don't like getting my head wet, right?
You
Like, come
didn't
on, just
have the
do it.
proper technique.
So if they're friends of mine, I was like, all right, I'll get in the fucking pool. And then I'm in the pool, and I'm just like, yeah, see, yep, hypothesis has been proven correct. I still don't like swimming.
Like the Brussels sprout, one of my friends trying to convince me that it was so good, and yeah, you add cheddar and bacon, but it's not Brussels sprouts anymore. Anything will be good with bacon and cheddar. You can
Well, that
convince
okay,
me.
fair, yeah, fair,
It's not a good argument at all.
yeah, totally. It's like I know you don't like salad, but if you put a full breast of chicken on top of it, you'll love it, right? It's
Yeah,
like,
totally. Hey, I
no,
have to make a 180 degrees turn because I have something that I want to ask you, and it's regarding uh, your collaboration you did with Soilwork back then. You produced, engineered the Natural Born Chaos album, and I remembered that back in 2002, I was reading an interview with Bjorn, and he said that that process with you changed his life and his like how he's singing and how you told teach him like ways that he was able to sing that he didn't know at all.
yeah.
I want your take on that.
Well, I think that the benefit that I had in that scenario is that I was older than them and I had had experience on a vocal front that maybe were just techniques that Bjorn had never been that were never brought to his attention. So more so than me coming into the studio like some sort of wizard and being like, here's how you're going to sing from now on. I was
I'm
able to
sure that
say,
you were not
I
like
was
that.
able to say, hey, I was on tour with this guy and he gave me this vocal technique. I was on tour with this guy and he showed me this vocal warm up so I didn't lose my voice. This is how this is what you know what I mean? It was things about my own personal technique as a singer. And that's what I shared with him. And because some of the techniques that he was doing at the time, at least, were maybe to some degree influenced by what I had done in the past, um,
Mhm.
all I did was just tell him how I did it. And so again, it was more my role in that was just like, I've learned these things, you want to know them, here they are, rather than, you know,
I know
sit.
you're always humble in everything you're doing, and that's what one of the thing I appreciate a lot of
I
you
appreciate that.
as
Thank
a
you. I
person.
do like to I do like to think though that I was sitting in the back of the soil work recording in a throne with like a pipe, you know, and I was just able to answer questions like,
Yeah.
yeah.
But he did improve a lot since then, and he's one of
Oh,
my
he's great.
favorite singer for a
Amazing
long
singer.
time.
Amazing singer. Amazing singer. And very powerful. Like he's because he's a big person,
Yeah,
his projection is great. Bjorn in Swedish means bear, right? And
totally.
and he's a bear, man, that guy.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to get going in a few minutes here, brother.
Yes, I know. Clock is ticking. And maybe just as a conclusion, Devin, it was so great to have you for Metal Universe and Metal Anthology. And maybe what do you want to say to your fans and maybe the all the power nerds out there?
I would say my only my only goal as an artist at this point in my life is to be honest. And I guess there's two goals: to be honest And then the only thing I'm looking for in terms of success is that I can make another one. And I'm not interested in being a star. I'm not interested in, being a teacher or anything. I just want to do my work. And the fact that the odd qualities of my material have been there since the beginning. It's like one is like this, one's like this, one's crazy, one's symphonic, one's new age, one's metal, one's pop, whatever. It demands a lot from any audience. So I would say to the audience, thanks for letting me do this because it's what I want to do and I don't take it for granted. And moving forward, my only criteria is to be honest and for it to be received well enough that I can afford to do another one. And thank you.
That's so great. And I really like the fact that you are doing what you want to do and what you are inspired to do and
Mm.
not doing something for the purpose of doing it because it will be well received. You don't
Yeah,
care.
yeah. Well, I mean, again, I care in that if it's well received, then I can make the next project bigger. So with the moth, for example, it's such a big process that I want it to be done correctly. I want it to be done honestly, and it requires a lot of people and a lot of capital and a lot of uh, work. And I can't do that if it's not at least reasonably well received, the one before. So I do care about it being received, but I don't play that too much into my writing, right? I just have to keep my fingers crossed that people don't totally hate it so that I can do another one.
They will like it
Good.
because it's
Thank
filled
you.
with real felt emotion. So
Yeah,
thank
it's
you
it
for, yeah.
welcome. You're welcome. And I appreciate the interview, brother. And until next time, good luck with your life and the shark and the octopus have finally met.
Yeah, finally. They will
Ha-
meet again in the future, maybe.
I'm ready for it, brother. Have a great time and thanks again.
Thanks again. Cheers, man.
Bye.
Bye.